CEO panel, the business case for diversity.
So let's understand what's happening about DEI globally. And these days, when you look at the tweets from US, and you know who I'm talking about, what you get to understand is that DEI is being really, literally being dumped by the US administration. Not only that, I believe they have started certain investigations claiming that it's a form of reverse discrimination. And there are CEOs of global companies, Fortune 100 companies, many of them have started withdrawing from their DEI commitments. Of course, there is a contra to this. So, for example, Apple says that it will continue and pursue its DEI initiatives. So, it's a mixed bag, but then you can't ignore what is coming out of the US. So, let me start by asking, let me start with Vaidya. Whether you have been a career MNC guy across multiple countries, how do you read this trend where all of a sudden the most powerful man in the world says that this is reverse discrimination?
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the IDEA Forum for inviting me, to this August gathering. What I would like to say that is there is a time limit to that. I think you have to be more patient. Okay, right.
That's a very polite answer. but no, more seriously, see, it is what it is. But from a global MNC perspective, I mean, the global MNCs have built large teams around DEI, embedded it in their policies at an operational level in multiple countries they operate in. And now suddenly when at the top there is this reversal of policy in some instances, how do you see this panning out? I mean, I'm talking on a no-name basis in a very broader context.
I would put it two ways, okay? I mean, that's a good question to ask as, one heading a global organization and coming with a lot of experience across different geographies. This is particularly, one of the disruptive moment, I will say that, okay, not only across this topic, but on different spheres, all right. But organizations, that's why I like to diversify. When we say diversify, we saw that during COVID period, right, when it came like China plus one policies. I think most of the multinationals would look to diversify the risks, okay, and this is one of the risks, that we are talking here. So organization will like to move to other geographies where, there is a more inclusive policies or to look at where they can grow, on a sustainable way there, okay. So diversity and sustainability goes hand in hand, like we are talking just before that. There are ways and means to address it, as a global organization, I'll put that way. Yeah.
Okay. So if I were to enhance what Vaidya is saying, is that a lot of the SDG goals, ESG imperatives and DEI initiatives, there's a lot of convergence. So call it by any name. If you embed it in your culture, in the corporate culture, then you can still achieve what you intend to achieve. Is that a fair way of summarizing this?
I would also say that, okay, because I'm the only odd man out in this panel who is, from engineering company, but I would say that thyssenkrupp nucera is, a 50-year-old company, part of thyssenkrupp, carved out 3 years ago. Because we are into electrolyzer manufacturers for green hydrogen, which is more on decarbonization and sustainability. Our tagline is we shape the new era. When we say that, because that's a goal, that we like to do that. And when we say that as a part of ESG governance, then diversity plays a key factor in that, right? India, we started in 2023. I was hired, to set up and scale the organization. We started with 28 people who moved from Uday, to nucera, and now we are close to 90 people. And I can only say on the diversity front, we had 6x, increase. And then we moved, let's say, from 10% to 18% in the last 1.5 years, okay. Why it is important as CEO is that I see the need that, without that, we cannot attain, the goals that we as an organization is aspiring for. So that is why I'm saying that sustainability, governance, and then diversity goes hand in hand. They cannot be, parked separately.
Got it. Yeah, thanks. Maneesh, what's your take on the trends and what does it mean for you?
Morning, everyone, and thank you, IDF, for calling, and thank you for this. From a global perspective, being a organization with large stakeholder, being a foreign entity, we've seen a world change. I mean, we've been existing for last 30 years. We've seen the first round of foreign investor coming in 2016. The pace of change had been there, but I think so post-COVID, the world has completely changed. As a fund house where we manage assets and wealth, we've taken a pledge. There's a vision, what we've taken forward from there. We have 7 cultural anchors where we put our everything which we do based on that. Fundamentally, respect for all, ethics and integrity. These are 2 foundations where every culture is built upon. Third is sustainability. I mean, that's where that's been a part of our vision for all. Fourth, where we say passion for working, okay, the passion for life. That's something which is very important aspect, okay, that you bring on to the table. Bringing all these culture together, this is a vision where we are saying that, and the most important thing, when we manage wealth, we manage money for the set of the people, client comes first, okay. So respect for all stakeholders comes into the play. So that's something which we've embedded on. When we do that, how do we build in this particular piece? There are 4 foundations which we've done. We do responsible investing. That's something we've taken as a charter, under which, whether it is equity or is it the other side, we've followed certain global mindset, which is responsible investing. That's something which we've taken. So anything which we do in terms of investments, we are mindful in terms of what we do. So as rightly said, this is an anchor. This is a culture which we bought onto, and that's something which we built. Second is environmental awareness. So anything which we do, whether our offices or even when we are dealing with the other set of investees companies, we are very mindful in terms of green buildings, what we are leaving onto the nature. So those are small bits what we can do from that standpoint. Third is from a social impact standpoint, where we say our social biases or social culture, what we are building. We have an ASK Foundation where we've already impacted about 55,000 odd families, where we've been giving livelihood. We've been helping them in terms of, these are villages in Maharashtra, in Karnataka. These are certain places where we've been making an impact. And largely, last not the least, where we say that eventually environment is where it needs to make a difference. So coming from that, we've not changed our stand, because globally when we look at it, as rightly said, this is a change moment. There's something which is changing and this disruption is happening. We don't see complete sea change in the DNA, the way it is working. So even while we are investing, we are putting things across, we made sure our cultural anchors are in place for that. So that's something which I'll leave on to.
Thanks. Let me engage you with a little more specifics if I can. So you are a, Maneesh, large financial holding company with multiple platforms and different types of teams for different businesses and so on. Now, in the world of finance, we keep looking at ROIs, saying that anything that we do, where's the ROI? So when you think of a subject like DEI and fostering the right culture and everything that you talked about, how do you think about measuring that ROI, if at all there is a measurement, and how do you track progress? If you can give some illustrations around it, that would be really wonderful.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question. So this is a live example I'm trying to give you. I'm going through this particular investment. We are doing a $200 million impact fund. Okay. This is we've signed a charter into August 22. that anything which is going to be do is responsible investing. So as a part of that, this is one particular charter. I am raising money from DFIs. I'm raising money from domestic institutions. And I clearly see a big change when it comes down to those set of things. One, when we look at DFIs, they are very clear in terms of what do you do, how do you measure, and what is the impact you are making. So eventually it needs to have a impact and a sustainable report. And it needs to have a regular monitoring in terms of, and they are global standards. So we are following the GRSB. There is GRSB, there is EDGE, which you need to follow, which clearly measures that what is the net impact what you are making, which eventually will convert into a ROI kind of a thing. The second thing which we are doing from that standpoint is when we look at domestic is a different basket of people. When I look domestic institution, we go and raise money. At the face of it, they are keen on doing it because somewhere at a philosophy or a vision level, they want responsible investing as one part of it. But when it comes down to the returns, I think so I see a big change vis-a-vis DFIs to Indian domestic institutions, because eventually they start comparing with what is the net result. So I think so it's a long way forward. We've seen a huge change where the domestic institutions have started looking at it, how it is making a difference in their investments, what is the impact which is it making. So that's something which is there. So we are seeing a change, and I'm giving a live example that we've already raised almost about 50 million from domestic. This is impact which is directly onto people, energy, sustenance. So that's something. Globally, there is definitely people, DFIs who are clearly looking at it, and they've been supportive in terms of that.
Thanks, Maneesh. Sandeep, I come to you. Now, you have a very tens of thousands of customers, the nature of your business. And so my question is that how do you try and embed some of the DEI initiatives in the strategy stage itself, in terms of how we want to build our business, how we want to grow, how do I encourage diverse ideas into the strategy? I mean, how do you embed it not as a independent standalone initiative, good to have, but into the real core of the strategy?
Thanks, Rakesh. First of all, good morning to all. Thanks to IDF for having me across. To come to your question, Rakesh, the most important part of strategy is to build it into the corporate culture. I mean, how do you imbibe it into the entire organization and make everyone in the organization believe it? Both personally, each one has his personal beliefs, but how does he intertwine into the organizational beliefs? So it's more about intertwining it into the corporate culture itself. And you know, at Centrum, like you said, we're across multiple businesses and with a large client base. And ultimately, it is the employee or the person representing us putting the face to the customer. So it's important to put that into his culture. And when you have to put that into an employee's culture, first the organization itself, as leaders, we have to put that into the DNA of the individual. A lot of times it is corporate culture, but it's that person who is at the helm who's actually deciding when it comes to crunch situation, what is the right thing to do. So what we have done is obviously, it is all there in the policy that we are an equal employer, diversity, inclusion is there in the policy manuals, but how do you make it come real? And one of the things I tried is, few years back, we made an offer to a person with great determination. It's another matter, he didn't join us. And when you're trying to find out why he didn't join us, he pointed out one of the things was like what the keynote speakers said here, the stage doesn't have access. So he said that coming to your office and the interview was quite difficult for me. So after that we realized and we changed it. We created the ramps, etc., so that a person with determination can come into our office easily. Second is gender diversity. Like Amar, the keynote speaker, mentioned, if you ask today, we'd be less than 20% females in the workforce. But what we did is we incentivize people. Obviously, there's a referral scheme when an employee refers a person, he's paid an incentive. We said, if you refer a female employee, you get 20% more incentive. So that was another thing we did. In terms of moms returning to work, we give them work from home and encourage them to come back. So these are the few things that we do which the people can see, and that becomes the culture. And then people imbibe it. And when they see there is a culture of connectedness, people are more happy coming to the workplace, and they contribute more to the organization, and the customer sees it, and hopefully it falls into it. I mean, you asked a question to Maneesh, how do you see the ROI? ROI and these things are very difficult to measure because we are used to looking at how much has the profit gone up by doing this. For this kind of thing, it's difficult to quantify, but it has to be driven down the organization in terms of making it happen. And it will be visible in terms of your business growing and customers being happy, because happy employees will service the customers better. So I'd say that's how we've been looking at it and trying to imbibe it into the organization's culture strategy in converting into culture.
Fabulous. Thanks, Sandeep. Whether you wanted to chip in?
Because we talk of culture here and how to drive that culture. Instead of me speaking, I have two of my esteemed colleagues who have joined with me. I will request Swati, because we are into the technology where we have to go and commission a plant, okay? And then, normally these locations are not in, posh metro cities, it's quite there. And she has that quite experience of going and commissioning at remote locations. So if someone can give a mic to Swati, who's sitting in the front, I think I would request the audience to hear from her.
So Swati works with Vaidya. They are in the business of electrolysis for green hydrogen, and so a lot of remote working is required at plant locations. So that's the context. Yes, Swati.
Hello, I would just like to reintroduce myself. I'm Swati Joshi. I work for thyssenkrupp nucera for past 1 year, and before that in Uday for the past 15 years. I have been a instrumentation and automation engineer, where an automation engineer has to always be present at the site when the site commissionings are ongoing. So what I have observed in the past 15 years, commissioning several plants at several locations, yes, initially it was very tough to handle things. It starts with basic necessities, like all of the females here in the room will agree with me that yes, it was very difficult. But with this DEI initiatives coming in, I have visited a few of the customers off lately, grass implants. I would just recommend one client who has put up hygienic washrooms for females, and that is one initiative which I feel that is really, come up. And I have seen that, I never found myself not doing anything which my male colleague had done in the past 15 years. So I'm really thankful to the IDF for bringing in this idea and letting me put forth this point. Thank you, Vaidya sir.
So Swati, let me ask you a question. You have worked for about 20 odd years. Do you see a visible change for making it easier, as the keynote speaker said, enablement? Do you see an improvement in enablement for women in particular in difficult jobs, engineering jobs, because you represent an engineering company? Do you really see a visible change, or you think the change is too slow?
For the past 2 years, things are speeding up. Like I have been in the diversity forums which we have in the office, and there also the inclusion topics, wherever we have walk-ins, or even on the student levels, how we are going to pick up students during the selection processes. So this thought process is coming in. It is creeping in, but it should take more pace in the coming years, I feel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Perspective, invested in one of the investee companies, wherein we clearly said, and this was a mandate, largely that's how you cross the road and you go through that path, where it was clearly stated by one of the DFIs that the woman inclusion needs to be doubled for anything which we are doing. So that's the benchmark what you do. Obviously, it cannot cross, right now, nobody expects if 50, it goes to a double. Nobody's, but at least to about a 50. But wherever you are, you need to double in any of your investments. So one thing which we did in any of the investee companies where we're doing, so one from people who are buying those apartments, okay, there's a special incentive which we've given, that 1% reduction in the loans what we are giving to the developer if you have at least 40% women buying homes. So that's something which is an incentive being given from the investee companies or from a fund house, saying that this is what it needs to be done. Second, wherever what we are doing in terms of the sites, we said Balwadi is must. That means women who come with their children needs to have a Balwadi. So their children needs to be there, there needs to be a place. And I'm not getting into the basic ESG where water, sanitation, that's a mandate that needs to be kept. But the other thing which we kept is the children, the schooling, they needs to come, a teacher needs to come. So those are set of things which a principle, that's where we say responsible investing comes into place. So whether it is in the investee company or even at a fund house, it has been mandated or it's been put across that we need to double. So today we are at a group, we are at about 36% women. At the fund house, we are roughly about 18%. And we've taken a pledge that we'll double it by the next 4 years or 5 years. So that's something which we've taken. These are classic examples of taking those initiative forwards.
Absolutely terrific goals here. Guys, you have had a very easy round so far. I'm going to now try to get a little tougher because I'm holding the anchor role, so to say. Now, when we talk of DEI, it all, in my view, boils down to valuing differences, which could be of different types, right? Now, what I'd like to, for you to share to our lovely audience here is an example in your experience, be it in your company or anywhere else you have seen, where an illustration which talks about how differences were valued in a specific situation. It could be a difference of radical thought, which is very different. It could be something else. But just try and share a live example where how differences were valued, encouraged, and allowed to kind of fall in place in a real decision-making scenario. Because I'm trying to bring down this 30,000 feet policy level, intent level conversation to right to where the action is. To say that, as the CEO, I am really making an effort to invite differences in a manner of speaking. As opposed to saying that we have a policy and yes, we will do this, that and the other, and we'll build the right infrastructure, but those are still in that hygiene space by and large. So quite honestly, what Swati said, I can resonate. Things are better, definitely, but the pace can be higher. So therefore this question, and I'm talking a little more just to give you time to think of a nice illustration which makes it exciting for people to relate to real life action. So let me start with Sandeep first.
Yeah. You want to go ahead? No, Sandeep. Yeah. No, I'll give you one example in terms of us encouraging this diversity quotient. In our organization, very recently we shifted the office. We are housed in a building called Centrum House, and it's a building where all the organizations, the different divisions are housed in one particular building. And you have a 11th floor, which is a beautiful pantry. I mean, it's a place where food is served to employees, and they don't need to carry lunch from home because they're women who come early in the morning, take the train from the suburbs and come into work. We didn't want them to have trouble, so we created this facility. Now you run short of space, you have to move the office. So we moved to a place which is diagonally opposite where we are, but you lost the pantry service. So what we did is we created a survey where we asked people that, do you want us to give you packed lunch so that you don't have the trouble in the morning, or do you want to carry your own lunch? You do the choice. And we said the weightage of responses coming from women in the workforce will be weighted twice than the men, because the men really don't have that much responsibility in terms of thinking about food. But for a woman in the morning, she has a lot of things to do, and if she has to add getting food made, it's a choice. So we did this, and the tie breaking was done by the women. I mean, we have 20%, little less than 20% women, but we said their weight will be twice the weight of the men. And finally, we got the packed lunch agreed for all employees with the women driving the voting, that should be
Perfect.
offered. So one way to recognize that certain decisions have to be left to people who are most impacted for that particular core in the morning daily.
Thanks, Sandeep. Maneesh.
So post-COVID, we had a challenge getting people onto offices. I mean, and especially in our business where it is investments, on whether it's equity, public market or private market, whichever side. So that was largely a big challenge. I mean, we were trying to get, initially we started with certain days mandated that these are the days when you need to come. And we found resistance across the board, whichever, no gender bias, but across the board we found that a challenge. So we actually went ahead, we called people, there was a team town hall, we asked people, everybody had their own set of challenges, kids, working, travel, which even we were surprised from that standpoint that people have been doing for last 20, 30 years, but suddenly in those 1.5, 2 years, this is the biggest challenge, or the family issues which came in. And suddenly the work-life balance was something which everybody talked about. So eventually we left it to people that what does it take to do that? And we left it to the complete group in that town hall, something very similar, that what is it required to do? What is mandated is not something which we are looking at, but something which automatically comes from people. So you'll be surprised, there was certain things where certain set of people automatically came, there were certain ways defined. So we started with minimum number of days, alternative days, early morning shifts, all sorts of things came in. And there were certain reservations that they don't want to come, efficiency is there, everything is there. But certain things which came across is they wanted yoga classes. I mean, that was something which was very different, that certain days they want yoga classes to be done because at home they've been doing for last certain number of days. They wanted work-life balance, so they wanted psychologists to be come into place. So even as a management, we were shocked that that's the kind of things which is required. But eventually we came down, we built a piece where we said, okay, these are certain days where you will have online yogas, you will have yoga in office, you will have the psychologists coming onto the place, mandated health checkup for complete people every year, which is there, not just for the senior management, it is for everyone across the board. So I think so that diversity brought in so much of valuable inputs that today, I mean, there are days defined when we have doctors which are coming, which does your health. You have psychologists which are available on those particular days. Your health specialists which are there, that means people who are taking care from there, and they are specialists in terms of that. I think so that helped, that diversity brought in many parameters, and we see a complete sea change. And that the whole resistance and over a period of time that just got out of it.
So 10, 20 years back, companies would tell their employees that you have to adapt to our culture. I think that paradigm has been put upside down post-COVID, where, instances like what Maneesh is talking about, where organizations have adapted to the requirements of their, human capital. And I think it's a journey which is irreversible. And of course, the best organizations have picked up pace very substantially. And some are still waiting for others to then try and emulate. But irrespective, in corporate India itself, there is substantial improvement, but yes, lots more to do as well. Vaidhi, what's your take on, some illustration you'd like to share.
No, before that, I will just take 30 seconds. I'm mindful of the time that, as I said that I worked in multinationals, in multicultural, and then when I was in Singapore with BASF, I had a good fortune to work under a woman leader, and I can say with respect, she's one of the best managers I ever had as a person. Okay, so what it helped me as a person is to say that, that's what Swati and Anvi, one of my colleagues is sitting on the back, used to tell that when we engage in the dialogues, in the office about that is, it's not like, we are getting this because we are women, okay? It's diversity is like, we are the best fit, for these positions. And that is what the culture we have driven in the organization. Just to give a live example, what you were asking, Rakesh, is that we used to have these ideation challenges, okay? So when we started the organization 2023, we had the first ideation session in 2024, and we had 30 employees at that time, 3 women in there, and all the, first 3 winners were men, okay? And when this year when we did the challenges, we came to around 80 people. Guess me or what? Out of the 3 winners, 2 were women, okay? And then the ideas also, there were a lot of ideas, participation. So what I wanted to say that the culture plays a key role there, okay? When you're listening to them, hear them out, empower them to take their decisions, and then, have this open office, speak up culture. And that's what I really encourage in the office is that come to me anytime, talk about the issues that you face there. There are no barriers, there is no gender bias in the organization. And there, when the participation goes up, the results are fantastic, I can say that. Yeah.
Thanks, Vaidya.